My screen is
My
super.
screen is my screen is my screen is my screen is
So today, as discussed, we starting the Terraform. Okay. So anyone know or anyone worked before Terraform? None of you.
No, I haven't.
Is there? Yeah. Please come again. Okay.
No, I haven't worked, but I think we'll be like declaring everything related to infrastructure through code in a Terraform so that we can spin it off so that it can spin off whatever the resources we have declared into. Just like CloudFormation in AWS.
Right. Right. Terraform. Terraform is a IAC tool. Okay. Infrastructure as a code. So we use using Terraform to deploy or automate the deployment of infrastructure. Okay. So you know how we deploying a EC2 mission via console, right? Manual way. So here we have a AWS console, AWS account, and we go to the service EC2 for launching a EC2 mission. Okay. So how we will launch this EC2 mission manually? We open that launch, click on the login instance and type the name, then select the mission, operating system, then mission size, I mean T2 medium, T2 micro, like that. Then we need to define the key name, defining the network, subnet, route table, sorry, subnet and VPC, then enabling IP, then opening port number for, then we need to select that hard disk. So a lot of stuffs are there, like if we go with the manual. So these all things we can automate, right? So if we're using Terraform, we can write a Terraform file. And what are the things that we manually doing when we launching a EC2 mission? So all that stages that we need to define under the Terraform file. For Terraform file, we call it TF. Okay, that's a format. For example, file.tf. So that file contains Terraform configuration file. So as we discussed, Terraform is a open source infrastructure. It's a open source tool. Okay, open source. Open source infrastructure as a code tool. It's developed by HashiCorp. 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 Okay. So, what are the benefits that I mean, when we use in Terraform? Terraform allows provisioning, manage, and version infrastructure using codes. Got it. So all the steps, okay. For example, if you deploy some infrastructure, for example, one of the infrastructure is EC2, right? Then VPC, EKS. These are the common, okay. S3 database. Then what are services available in the AWS? Okay, all that services we can automate using Terraform. And one of the main feature, okay, for example, we have AWS account, right? So AWS have AWS on cloud, I mean, infrastructure as a code tool, that is CloudFormation. But if we learn CloudFormation, the problem is, okay, whenever we switching a job and join another company, and that company using Azure, okay, in that case, we can't do anything with the CloudFormation. I mean, anything do with the CloudFormation with the Azure. That's the problem. So we need to learn something like Terraform. So if we learn Terraform, we can apply Terraform on all the cloud providers like AWS or Azure or GCP. Anywhere we can apply Terraform. Azure has Azure on infrastructure as a tool, that is Azure Resource Manager, ARM. GCP also have their own, I mean, IAC tool. Then coming to the key features, okay, I mean, key features of Terraform. One is IAC, okay, IAC. So coming to IAC, we can define, okay, define our infrastructure using simple declarative Terraform configuration file, like define infra using symbol, okay. Why we call symbol means, like for the Terraform files, okay, it's a human readable file, so we can easily identify, I mean, just read and identify what are the infrastructure that we define in the file. So that it's a declarative, okay, declarative file, declarative configuration file, like .tf files. Define infrastructure using symbol declarative configuration file or TF files. So that's a coming to IAC or infrastructure as a code. Then provider, as we discussed, we can apply on, I mean, works with all cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP. Even we can use VMware, okay, VMware, Datadog. All these area we can apply Terraform. Then execution plan. Give me a second. Okay. So coming to execution plan. Coming to execution plan, we can apply, execution plan. So coming to execution plan, we can apply the changes. Okay, apply the changes before what are some plans are there. Okay, some life cycle. Coming to Terraform, some life cycles are there like Terraform. We need Terraform plan, Terraform apply, Terraform destroy. So these are the life cycles of Terraform. So we need to follow corresponding life cycle, okay, whenever we need. So coming to the execution plan here, it will shows what will happen before we applying any changes. Okay, that's contain that plan, Terraform plan. Then the state management. State management is nothing actually. It's keeping or keeps tracks of infrastructure. Okay, keep tracks of infrastructure using a file format like T, using .tf state file. So that state file contain that um, existing state, okay, existing state of our infrastructure. For example, if we deploy a EC2 machine, okay, so that's fine. Now the machine is running. So coming to that state file, okay, so that state file contains information about our that running virtual machine. I mean the EC2 machine. Then coming to the workflow.
What is the use of state management?
State management means we have multiple configuration files. Okay, so in that case, for example, multiple infrastructure. We have multiple infrastructure. So we have a lot of state files are there. So we use some state file management. So inside the management, we have to keep that configuration file. I mean the state file. Then we need to lock the state file. Okay, locking means we need to lock for you if you're using AWS. Okay, if you're using AWS, then we need to leverage some other services like S3 or DynamoDB to keeping or to store this state file. So these all include in the state file management. How we will say keeping the file, how we will storing the file, how we will locking the file, all these things.
So if you're saying locking the file, it means if it
Sorry?
is locked, sorry, if you're
Yeah, come again.
saying locking the file, it means
Hmm.
someone is trying to make changes to the Terraform file. If it is locked, is it not allowing to make the changes or something like that? I don't know.
So that's all we need to specify. For example, we have the state file, right? So that's why we saving our state file similar like this. And for example, we have multiple users. Okay, so don't give permission to anyone to access our state files similar like that. Okay, only the corresponding users access or that bins like that. Otherwise, all users can access and they can modify the change. I mean code. They can apply like that. So this is our crucial file, state file.
So if something goes wrong, we can revert back to the previous state, just like rolling back. Maybe we can use the state file to roll back or something like that.
Yes, we can roll back. We need to keep some backups for the same file. For same file, if we keep backup, then we can roll back to the previous version.
Trying to understand what is the usage of the state file. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry.
No worry. Go ahead.
Okay. Have any confusion on the state file, right?
Yes.
Okay. Coming to lab, I will show you. Okay, how we will managing state file and what are the things contained in state file and etc. So you will get more idea. Okay, coming to Terraform workflow or life cycle. Okay, so this is our AWS account, right? So I will show you the workflow. Okay, how we will execute the Terraform. So this is AWS account. So our requirement is we need to set up a VPC or set up a EC2 machine. Okay, EC2. So launching a EC2 machine is a target. So we can log into the AWS account, right? Login. That's the common way, right? I mean, easy way to launch a EC2 machine. So first we need to log in to the AWS account using username and password, right? And that specific username, I mean, there's a user for the username, right? So that specific user has corresponding permission to perform the action, right? I mean, launching a EC2 machine. So if we have a admin privilege, then we can launch EC2 machine. Coming to organization perspective, whenever we creating a user, we have to apply corresponding permission and policies so that specific user can access whatever we define to the policies. Okay, so that's the format. So manually, this is a way, right? We need to manual process or manual way. We need to log into AWS account and perform the activity, right? So if we're using or leveraging Terraform to deploy the same activity, we have a laptop. Okay, so this is our laptop. Some prerequisites are there, okay, to perform. Prerequisites. So the first prerequisite, we need to install Terraform. Install Terraform, where we are going to work. Okay. So in this case, we will install Terraform on the machine, on the laptop, the local laptop. Okay. Then we are dealing with AWS, right? So we need to install one more tool, that is the service AWS CLI. So we need to install AWS CLI onto our laptop. Then we need to configure, both we need to configure, okay, under the environment variable. There is a system variables there, okay. System. So we need to go that part and in Windows, okay. And we need to configure the path of or define the path of the executor file for both, like Terraform and AWS CLI. So we can perform both the application, okay. I mean both tools. So that's a first thing. Then we need to create a user, or we need to take a access key and secret key for any existing user. Both are fine. So we need to go to the AWS account and go to IAM. If we need to create a user for specific task, we can create a two user, or else we can select the existing user and taken that user access key and secret key. Okay. So whenever we click on that part, it will download in our local machine. Okay, this file, that file containing access key and secret key. Then, yeah, then that's fine. Now we need to open any like terminal, okay, CMD or PowerShell or Visual Studio Code. All are fine. Then we need to type AWS command, CLA command, AWS configure. So whenever we type AWS configure, if everything's set fine, okay, everything is working fine, I mean correctly configured, then whenever we typing AWS configure, it will asking for access key. Then we need to provide the access key that we retrieve for the specific user, okay. That specific user has same privilege, okay. Before we need to ensure that like the privilege or the permission to perform or installing or launching EC2 mission on the specific AWS account. So whenever we type that AWS, the access key, hit enter, then it will ask for the secret key. So we need to define the secret key. We already taken, right? So we need to provide the secret key. Then hit enter, it will asking for the region, okay, which region that we are going to perform. Then that's all. These are the things it will asking, okay. Then after providing the region, everything is good. Now that means there is a connection between our local machine and the specific user on the AWS account, okay. Now we need to write the Terraform file. So coming to Terraform file, so the directory where we're working on the specific laptop, so the same directory we need to keep that Terraform configuration file. So coming to the first creation of file, we mostly creating the provider.tf file, okay, provider. So the Terraform needs to know which cloud provider that we are going to working. So for that, we need to create a terraform.tf file, and inside the provider.tf file, and inside the provider.tf file, we need to define that we are using AWS cloud provider. So we need to provide that corresponding AWS provider plugins details inside the file. So the Terraform, okay, Terraforms know this is for AWS account, and it will initially, I mean, whenever we typing, some commands are there, right? For example, everything is fine. The connection fine. We wrote all the files. Then we need to perform the Terraform init command, plan command, apply command like that. So whenever we typing Terraform init, the Terraform looking for the provider.tf file and install the plugin for the AWS, then it will initiate everything, okay. So we can see a output also in that console, like Terraform initiation successfully. Then we can perform the rest of the command. So then the second thing, the provider only for the AWS provider, okay, or Azure. If we're using Azure, then under the provider.tf, we need to define Azure or GCP like that. Then we need to write the main file, okay. The main file means our requirement is to deploy EC2 mission, right? So we need to create another file called main.file or any name we can give, okay. So I will go with the main.tf file. So inside the main.tf file, we need to define the configuration, the mission detail, mission name, VPC, subnet, all stuff we need to define inside the file. What are things that we manually doing, okay, whenever we go with the manual process. So all that step we need to define as IAC. Actually, the Terraform will automate the provider stuff, okay, only the provider things it will automate. Got it. So this is the format. So after writing the main.tf file, okay, so coming to our directory, what are things there? Provider.tf file and main.tf file, both coming to our directory, okay, the working directory. Then the same directory we need to perform the Terraform init command. So the first command, Terraform init. So it will initializing and downloading the plugins and interact with the corresponding cloud provider. Then next thing is Terraform plan. If it's successful, okay, that Terraform init is successful, then we can perform Terraform plan. So what is Terraform plan? Terraform init, it will initialize the working directory. Okay, whenever we typing the Terraform init, it will initialize our working directory and download necessary provider or modules for the specific cloud provider. Then coming to Terraform plan, that's the second command. So whenever we typing Terraform plan, it will show what Terraform will do without making any changes. Like it will help us to review the changes, okay, before applying. After this plan, we will type Terraform apply, right, for applying our Terraform apply. So before applying, okay, we need to know what are the things that we are going to create. So in that case, if you need to delete or adding any stuff, we can add at that stage, okay, the plan stage. Then coming to the third stage, that is apply, Terraform apply. So whenever we typing Terraform apply, it will execute or it will execute the action in the plan, okay. I mean, we have a plan, right? So whenever we type Terraform plan, it will list the plan, okay, what are the things that we are going to do. So coming to apply, it will execute the action in the plan to create or update or destroy infrastructure. Then Terraform destroy. So coming to Terraform destroy, it will execute the action, okay, delete everything. Coming to Terraform destroy, it will delete everything created by Terraform. For example, whenever we perform Terraform apply, it will creating a EC2 mission, EC2. Okay, so that's fine. After creation, then we need to destroy the mission, right? So we need to perform Terraform destroy. So it will destroy the resource that we created, okay, that the Terraform will create. Got it. Then some formats are there, okay, coming to the main.tf file, how we defining how we will defining the resource. Okay, some formats are there coming to AWS or Azure and any cloud provider. We need to define the Terraform. So inside the main.tf file, okay, console like that, right? Give me a second. Okay, inside main.tf file, we can see I need to set up a EC2 mission, right? So the same thing I need to define as a code, right? So coming to code, first we need to define the resources or resource. Okay, inside the Terraform, sorry, main.tf file, first we need to define resource. We are going to perform, I mean, we are going to create a resource, right? Then we need to define what resources we are going to create. So in this case, if it is a EC2 mission, then we need to define the EC2 mission parameter here. Resource AWS instance. This is a format, okay, for the AWS instance. So the Terraforms now we are going to create a resource that is called AWS instance. So this is only creating AWS instance, okay. Then we need to define the name. There is a format resource type, and resource name. So we need to define the name as well, like my EC2 like that. This is the name for only for the Terraform, okay, this name. So if we need to see the name in the console, then we need to define the name under the tag, name tag. So this is a name, actually the Terraform managing or monitoring for the specific resource. Then we define the machine, okay, like resource type we need to define like AWS instance, and the name already been defined. Then for the specific EC2, we need to define that AMI, right? The second thing, Amazon machine image. So we need to define the AMI ID. Under the AMI, we need to define the AMI ID. So where we get the AMI ID, we need to log in AWS console manually and go to the corresponding region. Under the region, because if we're changing the region, the ID will change. Okay, so make sure we are using the same region and the IDs that belongs to same region. So we need to define the image ID. Image ID, for example, if we're using Ubuntu, so Ubuntu has corresponding image ID there. Amazon Linux, so Amazon Linux has another image ID. So we need to select the operating system first, then copy the image ID and put it here. Then instance type. We need to define the instance type like T2 medium, T2 micro, or whatever we need. So similar way, we have to define that corresponding configuration. For example, if you are going to create a VPC, so how you define after this resource, right? We need to start with the resource, right? Then we need to define the resource type, the resource name. So how we will creating a VPC manually? First, we need to define the name, IP address. Then we need to, for a fully functional VPC, right? So then we need to create subnet, provide the IP for the subnet, selecting the VPC for the subnet, then creating internet gateway, attaching internet gateway to VPC, creating route table for the specific subnet, and adding the, subnet association, right? Adding the subnet with the corresponding route table subnet association. Then if we have open any port, then or routing anything, then we need to define under the route table. So all these stuffs under the fully functional creation of VPC, right? So all these stuffs we need to define inside a Terraform configuration file as a code, and we can apply. So it will create a fully functional VPC. Got it, all of you?
Yes.
So I think today we don't have a time to go with the lab. So we can connect tomorrow, right? So we can start the lab for the Terraform. Let's show some files. So here you can see one of my provider.tf how we configure provider.tf. So this is the format, okay? Terraform, then open a curly record provider. So here actually we define our provider is AWS.
I can't see your screen. Please zoom.
Okay. Now it's visible, right?
Yes.
So this is a configuration, provider, okay? That means Terraform, we are going to use we are going to use the cloud provider, AWS. So these all the stuff we will get from, you don't know how to or where we need to get that specific configuration. Okay, so we can directly go to Terraform. See, so we can directly go to the Terraform official registry and taken that configuration files for the provider. Okay, so see, this is a AWS provider for Terraform AWS provider. So here we can see use provider. Click on that. use how to use a provider. Okay, this is a provider I actually use there. So copy the provider configuration file. This is a file you can see here. Whenever we type Terraform apply, it will initializing and installing the corresponding component or modules and set up the working directory. Then coming to main.tf file, I will show the main.tf file. My file is missing. Okay, then we can continue tomorrow, right?
In the similar fashion, can we find mm, provided.tf in the similar fashion? Can we have a main.tf like a skeleton so that we can make use?
Come again. Your voice is very
Sorry.
slow.
Yeah, we have like AWS, Terraform has provided the provided.ts
Hmm.
config,
Yes.
right? In a similar fashion, is there a way that we can have a
Yes, yes.
main.tf skeleton for that one so that we can make use of
Right,
it?
right. Skeleton is there for easy to write.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a skeleton. This is actually more complex.
Okay.
This is more complex actually. So it will include a lot of steps.
Yeah, we are not covering the volumes and everything, right? I might cover volumes too and everything.
Here it specified that core option and everything.
Okay.
But coming to the specific, here you can see define the instance type also. So that specific instance has already have that corresponding core and prints everything.
Okay.
We can wind up, right? Tomorrow we can start the lab for the Terraform and we can deploy some application or whatever.
Sure.
then we can wind up, right? All of you. Okay. Bye then. We'll connect tomorrow. Good night all.